The awakening of the chosen. We are often reminded on this spiritual path that nothing occurs by coincidence. This is shown in the chapter's start, which emphasizes that we are all here for a purpose. It's fascinating, isn't it, when we pause to consider how certain things line up so neatly, as if they were orchestrated. A feeling of direction and divine purpose, which we frequently seek in our daily lives, is infused with the belief that we have been guided to a particular message, a calling from heaven. Astoundingly, when we tune into this spiritual frequency, we may feel the Creator's hand directing our movements, bringing us to a place that is more than just mundane and insignificant. Many of us, when we reflect on our life, sense a spiritual unease. This is not a coincidence, but rather proof of this heavenly intervention. What we really feel is a want to establish a connection with our spiritual essence and our life's genuine mission. We have all experienced that calling, that inner stirring that leads us into the unknown, yet promises purpose and a profound awareness. The chapter's suggestion that our presence is not accidental, but rather a heavenly summons hits close to home. One may often find themselves wondering whether they are just an observer or one of the selected few. Because it compels us to seek for the truth and authenticity in ourselves, this uncertainty is an inevitable component of the spiritual path. A potent reminder for everyone is found in the tale of Gideon, which is addressed in the chapter. In light of the enormous plan that God had shown him, Gideon, like the rest of us, felt tiny and unworthy. But this story is a reflection of our own latent abilities. Some heavenly power lies dormant within each of them, just waiting to be unleashed. The moral of the narrative is twofold. First, that we are valuable and deserving of acceptance. Second, that we must believe in the divine calling even when we do not feel capable or worthy. Our power and ability, like Gideon's, come from knowing and embracing that we are meant to do great things when we are in harmony with our divine destiny, even things we never thought possible before. Looking at this chapter's lesson through the lens of spiritual awakening may change your life. In addition to listening, the text urges us to do something with the information we receive. It serves as a continual reminder that we all have destinies to seize and legacies to live up to. Having faith that this word is from God's Holy Spirit fills one with both urgency and calm. Our perspective on life and the decisions we make every day may be completely transformed by realizing that this immense power is communicating with us personally. This is more than a simple cry. It is an invitation to tap into the latent power inside each and every one of us. In the end, this calling is all about starting a journey of self-discovery that will bring us to a better grasp of our identity and our purpose in life. In spite of uncertainties and difficulties, this spiritual story reassures us that we are a part of a larger purpose and a divine symphony, and this is its greatest beauty. The first step in living a life of meaning and satisfaction is realizing that we are a part of something greater than ourselves. As we continue on our spiritual journey, may we remain open to these divine callings and let them influence us in every manner, guiding us to a life filled with purpose, genuine relationships, and profound wisdom. Many of us have thought about how our difficulties are special when we contemplate the reawakening of our heavenly mission. This is not a fluke, but rather evidence that every one of us was handcrafted by God to carry out a certain purpose, a mission beyond this world. In my opinion, when we're not sure about anything, we tend to see ourselves through skewed glasses caused by our insecurities and lack of trust. But when we put ourselves in God's shoes, we find that we are unique and special, created for a purpose that no one else can fathom. Ephesians 2:10 highlight this reality by reassuring us that we are God's masterpiece, made to do the good deeds for which He prepared us in advance. What this means is that there is a higher purpose behind everything that happens to us, and that our lives are interdependent. Nothing is ever wasted when we confront adversity. In fact, every test and difficulty brings us one step closer to becoming the best versions of ourselves that we can be right now. But we should know that there will be those who fight against us along this road. It's a common observation that many of us have made on our travels. The level of resistance appears to rise just before we reach our objective. Since our mission leaves room for danger from those who do not want for our success, this resistance is a sign that we are moving in the correct direction. The grandeur of our calling is reflected in the opposition and problems we face. Rather than becoming discouraged, we should be inspired to press ahead with fresh commitment and strength in the face of these obstacles. An inspiring tale that shows how great destiny often encounter enormous conflicts is the one about Moses. There were many trials that Moses endured from the day he was born, yet God's hand and direction were ever present. He may have been paralyzed by uncertainty and terror, just like the rest of us. Still, he was never alone. The hand that had molded his fate was also the one that freed his people from slavery. Even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, God supplies us with the fortitude and resolve we need to carry out the will He has for our lives, as Moses teaches us. In our own lives, the opposition we face is a sign of our purpose, not a sign of our frailty. Whenever I felt like giving up, I would remind myself that the struggle was proof that I was making the correct choice, and it would give me the strength to keep going. We must realize that we are being readied for a monumental undertaking, one that demands that we release the bonds of uncertainty and dread. It is time to take a stand today, secure in the knowledge that we have the backing of a higher power that has already determined our triumph. In addition to calling us to accept our divine role, I think this message urges us to act. Every one of us has immense potential, and it is our sacred duty to not just acknowledge this, but also to fearlessly answer to it. This is how we seize the triumph and inheritance that God has planned for us, not as some abstract idea, but as something we can experience right now. Every step we take toward our mission brings us closer to completeness and satisfaction, and may this be our constant reminder as we journey forward, and that by answering this call, we may serve as examples for others to follow, encouraging them to look for and discover their own unique calling in life. As we progress spiritually, there will inevitably be moments when we question if we have what it takes to continue. Even when we're working very hard, there are times when we feel like we're up against insurmountable odds. At times like these, we are urged to acknowledge a power that is beyond our control, a supernatural force that comes from God. When we are at our most vulnerable, this supernatural power manifests and works in ways we cannot fathom. It is a strong proof of God's love and concern, because this power is available to us when we are weakest. The poignant tale of Zarephath's widow serves as an example of this. She had dwindled down to her last supplies of bread and oil, and was getting ready to eat what she thought would be her last supper. A provision miracle that beyond human explanation occurred to her when she followed God's direction and gave the prophet Elijah everything she had. Isn't it a lesson that the power of God may be seen in every part of our life with a simple act of faith? Our little sacrifice, when made with unwavering confidence, becomes a conduit through which the heavenly force starts to pour down upon us. Trusting in God completely provides a source of strength that surpasses any worldly danger, as shown in Daniel's unfaltering confidence. Daniel did not hesitate, knowing full well that his habit of prayer may bring him face to face with the lions. He put all his faith in God and trusted that He was in charge. Because of this, we know that the absence of danger is not where our strength is found, but rather in the assurance of the divine presence that protects and sustains us. The amazing protection that God bestowed upon Daniel shows that when we let go of our worries and believe in God, even death sentences may be turned into powerful demonstrations of God's sovereignty and strength. Jesus' life and death on the cross transformed the story of sin and death, and we should draw inspiration from His example. A man of strength who did not try to evade his fate, but who, in the face of adversity, gave himself over to the Father's will, showed what it means to follow God's plan. Let us all take heart from this act of surrender, let go of our worries, and put our faith in God's power. The only way to really experience the realm of change and renewal that lies beyond human ability is to surrender our own power and embrace the strength of the divine. This bravery goes beyond human capacity and leads us into this realm. Considering this, I must inquire, are you prepared to enter into a relationship characterized by complete confidence and the power of God, ready to let Him turn your difficulties into triumphs? Not only did biblical heroes possess this power, but so do all people. Everyone may experience this if they put their belief in a God who wants to be involved in their life on a personal level. It is a spiritual legacy that not only declares our worth as God's children, but also gives us the strength to face life's challenges with an awe-inspiring and unwavering faith. The road to your destination often appears more like a series of obstacles than a clear, well-defined path. May we walk each day with confidence that this inherent strength will elevate us, lead us, and change our course in harmony with the great divine purpose, reminding us at every turn that we are never truly alone. Our faith is challenged at every turn, and we are urged to overcome obstacles we thought were impossible. I know firsthand how difficult it can be to persevere through times of adversity. I've been there, and instead of giving up when it looked like all was lost, I embraced the challenge and used it to foster the growth of my faith. Often, the difficulties we endure set us up for better things to come, so that we can appreciate the wonder of God's handiwork. Drawing a strong comparison with the story of the Israelites at the Red Sea is possible. When confronted with the impending dangers of the enormous ocean ahead and the unrelenting army behind, I can only fathom the anguish they must have felt. But in the midst of this terrifying situation, a vital decision arose. Would they let fear control them, or would they stand up in faith? At this crossroads, God presented them with a miracle, converting a seemingly insurmountable obstacle into a doorway to freedom. We all encounter red seas in life, huge difficulties that push us to our limits emotionally and mentally. At these crossroads, we are called to go out on faith, even when we don't see the way that has been paved out for us. It is encouraging to consider that God may use our present trials, no matter how bad they seem, to set the scene for His magnificent revelation. Every one of us has the same indomitable spirit that split the Red Sea. It is not some myth or legend from long ago. It has nothing to do with pushing oneself harder or seeking some latent inner power. Instead, it's about finding hope in the knowledge that the Creator's limitless power works through us, allowing us to confidently tackle any problem. The words of eternal wisdom found in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 tell us that the way to find our way is to put our whole confidence in the Lord, rather than relying on our own intellect. The secret to fulfilling our destiny and winning the triumph we want may lie in this profound and unwavering faith in God. Sometimes we need to be brutally honest with ourselves in order to truly face our fears and find the uncertainties that are crushing our souls. These fears are the ones that keep us from following our calling with conviction and courage. But the fact that we have already won the battle for our lives is the most encouraging part of this trip. It is not enough for us to just endure hardship. We are commanded to triumph over it, because it is in doing so that we will demonstrate how our unwavering commitment to God may unlock doors that were previously inconceivable. Maybe now is the moment for you to fully immerse yourself in a religion that questions the status quo. A God who not only leads us, but has also planned our route to triumph, has extended an invitation to put our faith in Him wholeheartedly. Every day, we see the transforming force at work in our lives as a result of this unwavering faith, which makes us witnesses of what it is to live under divine shelter. I pray that as we go on in our travels, we may always have faith that there is a higher purpose that will lead us to triumph in the end, no matter how difficult the road ahead may be. Each of us is sculpted and forged by God to be resilient, and resilience is an important attribute that develops as a crucial part in our path towards our destiny. Along the way, we'll encounter obstacles that are really divinely designed to mold, fortify, and prepare us for greater things to come. The life of Joseph provides strong evidence of this. It would have been easy for Joseph to give in to his plight after being betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and unfairly imprisoned. But he was changed by his tenacity and commitment to the heavenly vision that was bestowed to him. he comes out of it stronger than before, rising through the ranks to become Egypt's second in command and rescuing not only his family, but whole countries from starvation. What José's story shows us is that resilience isn't about avoiding challenges. It's about having the will and guts to keep going when things become tough. Every obstacle was not an accident. Rather, they were necessary milestones in building a character that could handle and complete significant tasks. God does not let difficulties be in our lives so that we might crumble. Rather, He utilizes them to make us stronger and more equipped for the things He has in store for us. Here is when resilience comes into play, turning adversity into opportunities for grace and divine purpose to emerge. Another biblical figure who overcame adversity is Paul, who endured imprisonment, shipwrecks, and other persecutions. But he remained steadfast in his faith and his devotion to his divine mission in the face of these trials. Actually, he became more determined and faithful with every obstacle he overcame. The rewards for his perseverance, he knew in his heart, would last forever, while the challenges themselves would pass. In verses 3 through 4 of Romans chapter 5, he urges us to take pride in adversity because, as he says, it produces endurance, which produces approved character, and finally, hope. A stronger faith and a renewed sense of purpose are the end outcomes of this challenging but ultimately rewarding process of spiritual growth. When we think our strength is about to run out, that's when God is closest, giving us His reviving power. He is with us while we're hurting, turning our sorrow into wisdom and our trials into great declarations of rebirth and hope. Once we grasp this concept, we may begin to ask, how can we, mortals, foster this heavenly resilience? Rewriting our narrative is an invitation to let God use every difficulty as a chance to show His might. Every adversity is really a chance for personal development and progress, a clean slate for God to write a narrative of salvation and triumph on. We are the heroes of these stories of triumph because we are strong, resilient, and cherished. By wholeheartedly following this calling, we open ourselves up to the incredible power of God, who turns our trials into powerful demonstrations of His presence and strength. Understanding the significance of shifting our viewpoint is crucial in our spiritual path, in order to advance ourselves. What we do next is often dictated by how we interpret our current situation. Adopting a faith-based viewpoint allows us to see the unseen and cultivates trust in the impossible, since we know that God's work is always bigger than our comprehension. It's amazing to consider how this shift in viewpoint might influence our approach to difficulties, turning apparently impossible circumstances into chances to see heavenly intervention. An examination of the consequences of a religious worldview is provided by the story of Joshua and Caleb. There was a striking contrast between their attitude and that of the other 9 spies sent to investigate the Promised Land. Fear and a limited perspective on reality were the foundations of the unfavorable reports from other spies. While acknowledging the difficulties, Caleb and Joshua maintained their focus on God's promise, believing that this was the country that God had promised them. They were the only ones of their age to reach the Promised Land because of their unique vision. This demonstrates that genuine faith does not get rid of problems, but rather depends on God's word and promises to overcome them. We are encouraged to examine our own outlook when confronted with challenges by looking at the faith shown by Joshua and Caleb. In what ways are we dealing with the difficulties that life throws to us? Would we rather regard these challenges as chances for God to show His strength and faithfulness, or as unbeatable obstacles? Maybe God is trying to get our attention so that we can see the spiritual bigger picture and put our faith in His promises with all our might. Praying for a fresh perspective, deeper spiritual insight, and a change in mental patterns is frequently the key. When we do this, our spiritual eyes become more clear, enabling us to see beyond the constraints of this world and into the boundless potential that may be ours through the grace of God. Miracles and the realization of God's promises are made possible when we are ready to trust Him, even when we are confronted with seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Taking bold action based on the confidence of God's promises rather than our senses, demands bravery, but yields incalculable benefits. A God who is always at work is writing our future, and as we keep looking forward with a fresh outlook and unwavering trust, we may find hope and satisfaction in the pages that He has already written. Here, rather than being the last chapter, every difficulty serves as a comma in the narrative of personal development that God intends for each of us. Purposeful living is fundamental to who we are. It's a universal desire to make a difference in the world and fulfill a purpose greater than ourselves. Discovering and fulfilling this calling calls for an attuned awareness of God's will, the bravery to choose the high road, and the self-assurance to overcome obstacles. God has a special plan for every one of our lives and has endowed us with distinct abilities to help us fulfill that plan. Knowing that this divine calling may be seen in both big acts and faithfulness to the little things of daily life, seeking a thorough knowledge of it is the first step in accepting this destiny. An inspiration in Esther's life is how she persevered through tremendous hardship to fulfill her destiny. Even though she was a young lady in a difficult place, she was prepared to answer God's call and was instrumental in her people's rescue. Every one of us has a unique purpose in this world, and our mission becomes clear when we are receptive to God's call and act accordingly. Her narrative is a potent reminder of this. To discover your life's mission, you must develop the skill of listening to God's voice and asking Him to show you how to utilize your talents to help others in need. Finding answers to important issues and pursuing our interests can lead us to our life's work. Embracing this calling may mean stepping out of our comfort zones and putting our confidence in a God who will see the task through to completion. Always keep in mind that your path is unique as you attempt to live a life of meaning. Every one of us is walking according to a unique and exquisitely designed divine plan, even if it's easy to get caught up in comparing ourselves to others. Our lives may be a testimony to God's love and transforming power if we live them in accordance with this aim, which is to be a light for others. One of the most important things you can do is hold on to the promise of Jeremiah 29:11, which says that God has plans of peace and hope for us, and let your dreams soar along with them. Knowing that God is always at work through our deeds and decisions to create this world a more fair and loving place encourages us to live with enthusiasm and conviction. All that we do, in accordance with this vision, serves a higher purpose, which not only gives meaning to our lives, but also improves the world around us, demonstrating the presence of goodness and divine purpose in every aspect of our being. Embarking on this path of purposeful living also serves as a daily reminder that we have the power to bring our behaviors in line with our core beliefs. It's not just about the major life choices, it's also about the little daily encounters and how we choose to spend our time, energy, and love into them. A profound manifestation of divine purpose may be seen in every act of kindness, compassion, and careful listening. These examples demonstrate that making purposeful decisions every day is not some abstract idea, but rather an ongoing process. One thing is constant throughout the vastness and complexity of human purpose: the significance of maintaining a relationship with God, the origin of all purpose. We are able to hear His counsel and get the clarity required to identify the route ahead via prayer, meditation, and continual spiritual inquiry. Maintaining a strong spiritual connection helps us navigate through challenging circumstances with grace and understanding. Every step of the way, we must keep in mind that our lives are woven into a greater whole, a complex web of connections guided by a higher power. Each of us plays a special part, but when we work together, we can make a difference that will last for centuries. To live a life that matters is to accept an invitation to be a part of a dynamic narrative, where our beliefs and deeds contribute to a lasting legacy of optimism and revitalization. Living a purposeful life allows us to finally express our own potential. As a result, we are able to enjoy our lives to the fullest, unencumbered by the anxieties and concerns that hold us back. Following our calling is a courageous journey, but it pays off in the end because our light shines brighter and brighter as we go. Living a purposeful life is a gift to yourself, but it is also a lighthouse for everyone around you, illuminating their path with kindness, compassion, and honesty. I pray that as we face each new day, we remain steadfast in our pursuit of God's will for our lives, trusting that there is a greater purpose at work, and that we are invited to share in a life full of significance and lasting accomplishments.